Ladies and gentlemen, it's Saturday! StarCraft 2 Heart of the Swarm. Proceeding further with our amazing 128 open bracket. We're about to get started with winners round 3. I'm Axeltos. I'm joined by Axlav. Are you awake?
I am awake.
No, you're not.
You know what? Any moments of like tiredness are going to be instantly erased as soon as these guys start playing, because these guys are absolutely insane. They play all day, every day, in those training houses over in Korea. SCX versus KT coming at us. Stats versus Deer.
I'm excited, man. It's going to be good. These guys could have met in the finals if they were on opposite sides of the bracket.
They may still meet in the finals.
They might even still meet in the finals. Great point there, Nick. Of course, I lost all my tiredness when I saw this crowd that's here early in the morning. You guys are awesome. I can't say that enough. I can't say it enough. Absolutely awesome. Getting up early to be here. Like I was talking to some of y'all earlier this morning. It was like 9 o'clock a.m. They're like reserving seats for their friends. Look at those cheery individuals, so handsome. Oh, that guy has a Pokemon hat. That guy's awesome. Oh yeah. All right, so Stats versus Deer is coming up. We've talked about these guys a lot. Tell me what you think about them individually. Who do you think has the edge here in this matchup?
So Stats has, I think, the highest, the 3 Kessler representatives we have here. Stats has the highest win percentage in the Pro League, about 61%. Now, 61% is insanely high in Pro League. There's no one who really breaks 70% because the competition is just so fierce over there.
Yeah. So
61 is very, very high. Most players are, of course, averaging around 50. But Deer plays a very aggressive style, and that can really catch a lot of players off guard. And Stats is a player who I think is going to be easier for Deer to prepare for, because he knows, okay, Stats is just your classic, very, very standard Protoss player. He does a lot of just very macro-focused builds, building up to 2-3 base timings, really focusing on his mechanics. Whereas Deer is a guy, Deer can kind of go anywhere. He can throw out some crazy 1-base stuff. He can do this insane multitasking off 2-base. And so sometimes, he plays a little bit too loose and aggressive, and he can be punished, but it also makes him very hard to prepare for.
Sure. Now, what was the stat you said for Stats? Was it 71?
He's 61%.
61%.
There's no one who's over 70. Pro League.
That'd be crazy. And I feel like the majority of the matches in Pro League are going to be have been PvP, haven't they? I feel like a lot of them have been.
Yes.
Because these Pro League guys, these Pro League coaches, putting their best Protoss players out there. So do you think that it gives a little bit of an edge to Stats as far as having such an impressive win rate in a league where a lot of it is PvP?
I think it definitely helps him out there. Of course, he also is the premier. Both these players are pretty much a top Protoss for their team. Stats, top Protoss for KT Rolster. Deer, along with Trap, probably the 2 top Protosses for STX Sol. So both of them are the guys that their team goes to when you say, who's our best Protoss, who do we put forward? Both these players have been in ace matches, which is something that normally you see the flashes, innovations in ace matches. Stats has played ace matches for KT. In fact, he's the only KT player besides Flash for the entire Pro League season to ever be put forward in an ace match. So he's definitely a guy the team leans to. He's definitely a guy they have a lot of confidence in, and that's something Deer has to be worried about. STX, on the other hand, Deer's also had some, an ace match appearance, but STX is a team where they've really put forward a lot of different players in ace matches. I think Trap's had an ace match, Innovation, of course, had a couple, and there's, I think, there's 1 or 2 other guys that have ace matches for STX. So both these guys are like the top Protosses for their teams. They're heavily relied upon.
Yeah.
People may not know them as well as, let's say, Rain or SOS, because they haven't had that individual league exposure quite yet. But that's just going to make them even more hungry to win this match.
And it's interesting because you got to remember how these guys got to this point. They're very used to this format. The qualifiers that Pro League held to send players over to Dallas was, in essence, an open bracket. It was these long, grueling matches, these long bracket stages. But it's time. The countdown has begun. Both these players are ready. I'm certainly ready.
I am more than ready.
Is our crowd ready? So sick. Akalon Wastes is game number 1 in this best of 3. Winners round 3. PvP. Stats versus Deer. Day 2. MLG Spring Championships has begun. In the top left-hand location, I present to you your red Protoss player, Stats. KT Rolster has Flash as a teammate.
That's a great training partner.
So that's like you gain skill by...
If you're near him. It's
Osmosis?
contagious.
Is osmosis the term?
If you're touching, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's like when Flash is sleeping, Stats just goes and rests
Rubs
his
him.
hand.
Just rubs him a little bit.
Just
Starts to sneak some of that skill out.
Should absorb some of that skill. Of course, his opponent in the bottom right-hand location from Team STX. He is Deer. Now, we're not talking about Bambi.
No.
There's an A in this Deer.
That's right.
Important to note. I know a lot of people are confused. Like, Axeltoss, why are you talking about animals? All right. PvP Aquilon Wastes. What do you see these guys going for? Are we going to see a lot of early aggression? Are we going to see a little bit more passive play, expansion-based, tech-based?
You know, out of Deer, we can see almost anything. Stats is very likely to play a build focused on getting early scout, making sure he's safe from an aggression, and taking that expansion. That's pretty much his standard go-to way to play. Of course, PvP is so reactionary.
Sure.
The thing about PvP is, in almost every matchup, you expect people to expand it around between, at the very latest, like 25 food are going to be building an expansion for Terran, Zerg, Protoss, all the matchups besides PvP. But PvP is a little bit weird because taking expansion before 30 is fairly rare. You see those expansions more later.
Right.
And the later that expansion is pushed back, the less economy people have. And that means that the scouting is so essential because you don't have enough resources to make some of everything, to save for everything. You have to make more specialist armies, at least in the early game, the first 8 minutes or so. And so the scouting game is really intense. You'll see people doing mind games with hiding buildings. You'll see people use hallucinations early on. But then there's that risk of, do I need to force fields? Can I use hallucination? Can I send a Mothership Core across the map to peek at his base? When I get my first Phoenix, should I scout or should I hide it? Because if I hide it, then he doesn't know I'm going Phoenix. But if I scout, yes, I give away that, but of course also I can find out what he's doing. So there's so many early game scouting decisions that go on, and we see a little differential here with Stats actually building the Zealot and then canceling it before it's about to complete. Now that was a precautionary measure in case he was being rushed. And then as soon as he says, okay, if he was Zealot rushing me, the Zealot's already hit me. If they hit later, I'm already going to have the Mothership Core and a Stalker out, so I can go ahead and cancel that Zealot. He's still on a single gateway though, whereas Deer is going to 2 gateways. And that's going to give Deer map control, but Stats has more minerals to play with, so he can do a fast expansion.
Twilight Council being placed down here for Deer. By the way, guys, get on Twitter. Who will win this round? Hashtag Stats or hashtag Deer, along with hashtag MLG. We see a very divergence opening here for both these two players. We got a Nexus opening here from Stats. Meanwhile, a very quick Twilight Council from Deer. I don't see any sentries from Stats, which is relatively interesting because...
I think he has one.
Okay, okay, does have one. So now he can start accumulating that energy. And of course, Hallucinate is actually ridiculously important in PvP that enables you to make those free invisible, well, not invisible units, the free units that don't actually do anything but scout, which is actually very useful in PvP when you're trying to find out exactly what's going on. And this is going to be very interesting because Deer going for that fast blink, Stats going for the faster Nexus, and a Robo. So this is all going to be about control. Deer's the guy who's investing more into one base. Deer, going forward, is going to have to get damage done.
One thing very important to note, if you ever want to try Stats build a fast expansion in PvP, the thing you're most scared about is the proxy Stargate Oracle. So notice how what Stats did. He had a probe scouring the whole bottom left side of the map, and he sent his Mothership Core across the right side to make sure there was no Stargates being built anywhere close to his base. Because of course, if we're opening with a Sentry, and you have one Sentry, one Stalker...
You have nothing that kills the Oracle.
Yeah, Oracle can just run and just absolutely kill all your units. And if you lose that first Sentry, you don't have the force fields and you're in even deeper trouble. So Deer going up to 4-gate blink, like he said. He's looking to put on pressure. Stats getting Observer before Mortal. Of course, that's because he hasn't quite yet identified the build.
He's going to identify it very soon. Okay, sees the pylon on the high ground.
That's going to tell his opponent wants to put on some form of pressure. He doesn't know if it's a DT rush yet or if it's blink or whatnot. As soon as he's the Stalker count, that's going to give away the build.
Deer's backing up. Okay, the Phoenix just saw some Stalkers.
Oh,
okay, he's going to know.
Yeah, if he saw those 4 moving out, well, now it's totally obvious. He sees the Chrono Boost on the Twilight Council. So right now, he's probably going to be Chrono Boosting his Immortals out as fast as possible.
Oh, yeah.
He's going to focus on warping in as many units as he can because he knows if he can defend this attack, he's going to be far ahead in the game.
Oh, yeah, he's going to be in a great position. I mean, income is 30 to 24. That's 6 more Harvesters at the 7-minute mark of the game. That's huge, but a lot of Stalkers coming in here from Deer. I'm not sure if Photon Overcharge is, yes, Photon Overcharge is available, immediately being deployed. Force field going down the ramp from Stats doesn't even want, because what Protosses can do, they can blink one Stalker forward and then blink the rest up. So Stats making sure that doesn't happen.
Exactly. The most important thing here for Stats is Immortal. Look at that, a counterattack with the Zealots. That's
Meanwhile,
awesome.
the
But the Immortal's being focused down.
The Immortal getting targeted down. 3 sentries and a Stalker, not going to do much to these 10 Stalkers. Remember, Photon Overcharge was deployed on the main, and 3 Zealots from Stats are across the map, dicing up the middle line here from Deer. Stats forced to pull some probes. He can afford to do it. The Immortal pops out, and there's the time where the Stalkers be blinking away here from Deer, and the Zealots getting a lot of damage done in that middle line.
Oh man, Stats took some heavy damage at his base, but these Zealots are doing a nice job with the counterattack. Every probe he kills greatly impacts Deer's ability to warp in reinforcement Stalkers.
All right, Photon Overcharge does not have any energy. Immortal has to be careful. Deer thinking about blinking up. There's a force field available. He has to be careful.
I think he might have to give it the natural. That force field threat is too strong. If Stats tries to pull his whole army down, it's going to be cut in half by a force field.
Oh, playing with fire here. The force field not going down just yet. More Stalkers being added here from Stats. The next getting very low in health. Stats does not want to lose that. He has 5 Stalkers, 1 Immortal, 1 more Immortal in production, but I think that Nexus is gone. Deer, Stats is going to have to just try to hold his high ground for now. Mission accomplished here from Deer.
That's right, now Deer has total map control. It is actually, there's no sentries in Stats' arm. He's going to try to go up the ramp, focusing down the Immortals.
3 Stalkers miss blinking, though, trying to target down that Immortal. Stats keeping it alive, trying to pull it back. The other Immortal going down as well. Stats losing 2 Immortals in a matter of seconds. Deer pressing up this ramp. There's not another Immortal in production. All Stats has is gateway units to try to hold this off, but does Deer have too much?
Oh, looks like he might. The Blink Micro is so strong, these low unit count battles. Looks like Stats.
GG.
Yeah. What a great execution there from Deer.
Wow. And like, gosh, in PvP, when you're going for that Blink Stalker play and you're scouting that your opponent already has his natural done, you're seeing a Mothership Core, obviously you're terrified about a potential Photon Overcharge. You know, you're seeing an Immortal as well, so you know your opponent went for an early Robo. You have to get a lot of damage done as fast as humanly possible, and you have to be able to defend against the counter shenanigans, because when you're attacking on one base and you're the guy who's time pressured, you know, you can't afford to warp stuff in back home. But what's interesting is he left his Mothership Core back home during that, and he was able to put the Photon Overcharge. That helped deal with the Zealots, and then he was able to be as aggressive as possible with those Blink Stalkers, able to really identify and isolate his opponent's Immortals, which are the most important thing to take out. Of course, able to convert to a Game 1 victory. Not bad.
A great game by Deer there. You know, what the key thing there was when Stats decided to counterattack with the Zealots, that left his first Immortal very vulnerable because he only had a few sentries and I think a single Stalker to defend it. And that Deer, as soon as he noticed that, he says, I'm just going to blink on top of it. And if I can blink up there and there's not Zealots to tear apart my Stalkers once they blink up, I'm just going to focus down the Immortal. And if the Immortal count is low, there's nothing to stop a world-class player like Deer from just tearing apart his opponent with that Blink Micro.
All right, guys. We got game 2 coming up fairly soon, but first, we're going to take a break. You're watching the first match of the day. It's Deer versus Stats. Game 2 coming up.